way, Coregon. 28 hours after he left New York, Coregon landed his plane in Dublin, Ireland, stepped out of his plane and exclaimed, "I just got here from New York. Where am I?" He claimed that he had lost his direction in the clouds and that his compass had malfunctioned. The authorities didn't buy his story. They suspended his license. But Coregon stuck to his story to the amusement of the public on both sides of the Atlantic. And by the time Wrong Way Coregon and his crated robin returned to New York by ship, his license suspension had been lifted. He was a national celebrity, and a larger crowd than had greeted Charles Lindbergh met him for a ticker tape parade. For Glenn Curtiss, building and selling airplanes was not enough. He wanted people to understand the excitement and beauty of flying his aircraft. Starting with the first sale of an airplane to the Aeronautical Society of New York in 1909, Glenn Curtiss agreed to teach America to fly. The Curtiss School first trained U.S. Navy pilots, helping to create a strong air wing of the military. He created the world-famous Curtiss Jenny, which has flown here at Owensboro in the past. These flying schools trained some of the finest aviators in the world and the world had ever seen, and used robins to do so. Afterwards, the Curtiss Flying Schools merged into the Curtiss Flying Service, continuing well up to the beginning of World War II. After Lindbergh's successful 1927 Atlantic crossing, Curtiss designed the Robin to capitalize on the new popularity of aviation. It was a simple cabin monoplane designed with seats for a pilot in the front and 2 passengers in back. The dependable and inexpensive Curtiss Robin became one of the most commercially successful civil airplanes of its time, with 769 produced from 1928 to 1930. It was the most produced Curtiss aircraft in the period between World Wars I and II. The Robin was a practical airplane, but best remembered for an unusual flying endurance flights, actually. In 1929, now you're going to not believe this, Red Jackson and Forrest O'Brien spent nearly 17 days circling over St. Louis, Missouri without landing. That record was surpassed in 1935 by brothers Fred and Al Key, who flew their Robin for some 27 continuous days. There's a lot of questions that have to be answered for that. One of them was how they got fuel. Well, it was delivered from another Robin by a hose. Mail, food, oil, and spare parts came by container tied on the end of a rope. And today, that Robin, named Ole Miss, resides at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Then in 1930, Dale Red Jackson performed over 400 consecutive slow rolls in his Robin. That was a feat. But the most famous Robin may be that of Douglas Wrong Way Coregon, who flew the Atlantic to Ireland after announcing his destination was Los Angeles. These endurance flights showed not only the reliability of the Robin, but the dependability of aircraft in general during the 1930s. In the history of American aviation, this single aeroplane, and I say aeroplane because that's what they called them back in those days, A-E-R-O, aeroplanes, showed the American public what endurance, stability, and performance were all about. Today, of the 769 Curtiss Robins that were built, 19 fly today. That's really testament to a great airplane. The Curtiss Robin is operated by the nonprofit Friends of Vintage Flight in Bowling Green, and at its controls today, an aviator who's known as Justin Tidwell. The Robin will continue to the Owensboro Airfield, which is behind us. Let's get turned around. We'll get the Curtiss Robin turned back toward the airport, and I hope you'll join me as we have one more lap around from the Curtiss Robin. will get a chance to see it and hear it one more time. This is a rare airplane. This is a hunk of history here, and I'm going to get my camera going on it as Justin Tidwell brings the Curtiss Robin back for one more pass. Justin operates a flying school of his own. It is so good to have him flying this way. All right. One more photo pass from the right. He's going to get it turned around, come right by us in front, and then make a left turn out and go right back to the airport. This is great stuff as far as I'm concerned. I really, really like this. Curtiss Robin, Justin Tidwell, and the story of Wrong Way, Coregon.